All right, so I've made the deck a lot more the deck like in the sense that it's gone to 5 colors now and has a lot more like major impact plays on the board. The sideboard is still kind of garbage, honestly, but um, I just threw in a bunch of cards I like, and we'll figure it out later. I'm just not getting enough games against opponents to really get a good sense of what I need to do with this deck, unfortunately. But anyway, um, let's see. What changes have I made? I got rid of the Tithe package and just put in a City of Brass and a Tropical Island to support the Sylvan Library and Regrowth, which now are both in the deck. Um, so what I've noticed is that most decks, I mean, it seems like only Shops is running like a full Wasteland suite for the most part. Very few decks actually do, and as a result, um, the one weakness of this deck, which was the somewhat fragile mana base, is a lot less weak. It's very difficult for my opponents to punish me for having such a greedy mana base. But of course, with 5 colors and 5 moxes, we do have, and of course, 4 fetches in the City of Brass. In terms of Tropical Island support for green, for example, there's the 4 fetches in the city is 6 green sources, plus Lotus is 7, and Emerald is 8. So it's not as bad as it looks. I do think probably down the road it might make more sense to pick up multiple cities of brass and go that route, and have a mixture of fetch lands and cities of brass, maybe even just one more. 4 tundras may be too much, and I might be better off with, say, 3 tundras, and then have a second city of brass. But I'm kind of going to figure that out as I go. So, anyway, without further ado, I don't have a lot of games. I just have one that I think is interesting and enjoyable for you to check out. I can play the one against the Devil, um, as well as the one against X Morningstar. I don't know what's up with these names this evening, but yeah, those were my two opponents. I'll go ahead and play the Devil, but the build, I don't think I was using the build as it currently is. So for this one, I don't even remember how this game plays out, and it's the next set that I actually wanted to highlight. Okay, well, that's a pretty good opening hand against anybody. My opponent's opening hand looks pretty doggone strong as well. Wow, Sapphire into Lotus. Good start. I go for Ancestral here. It lands, so I get to play it. I guess I had main deck Ivory Tower at the time, support Sylvan Library, and then decided I'd rather go with Zuran Orb Balance, um, which allows me to turn lands into cards. So now we're fighting a fight where my opponent tries to Cabal Ritual and I mana drain him. And using the mana, I Treasure Cruise, I Wasteland him and then Treasure Cruise. And does it stick? It does stick, so I get to get my Tundra down. But it has no lands. Yeah, I had main deck Pyroblast and I had main deck Ivory Tower. Now I have Zern Orb and Balance. I was also playing a main deck Disenchant, which I'm not playing right now. I think I replaced it with Mind Twist. At any rate, I think in this version, in this initial version where I had first added green, oh, I replaced it with regrowth, that's right. So anyway, in this version, I did not have a tropical island to fetch. So it gets quite annoying midway through. And you can also see why like I don't care much for having as many tundras as I do. I think 4 is probably too many, and I'd rather have a City of Brass because I mean, look how frustrating. I could just end this game. My opponent probably is lost anyway, but I could make it a certainty with access to green or red. Well, there's red. That should be enough. My opponent forces it, and I actually decide, because Oath is so dangerous, I decide not to fight over that. I can win with Sylvan easily. Okay, and then this should be where Sylvan Library comes down and I win the game. Except, like I said, I realized I was thinking that I would, as soon as I found a fetch, I would get a tropical island. It wasn't until after I drew it that it occurred to me that I had not added the tropical to the deck. So, very frustrating situation here. And I believe my opponent's Mox Diamond is about to bite him in the butt. Finally, I'm going to Yogg Will. Now I'm going to fight over a Dak Faden if I need to. As it turns out, I don't need to. Excuse me. So go ahead and take out his mana sources. He plays a City of Brass, but too late. Alright, so I'm going to plus up Dak, throw a Factor Fiction and Swords. I throw a Factor Fiction because, oh yeah, I'm not earning main deck Swords either. Throw a Factor Fiction because I have Sylvan. I don't need it. I'm about to draw many cards off Sylvan Library combined with Dak Faden. Alright, so here's Gorilla Shaman. Now we're just going to do 16 damage with Gorilla Shaman and call it a wrap. My opponent decides he doesn't want to stick around for that, and I don't blame him. So that was that guy. I kind of wonder if these aren't just like alternate accounts for the same guy. The name, and also look at the deck my opponent's playing here. Alright, so now let's play the real one. This is the current version as I showed you, which I'll bring up again at the end of the video. But I had to mulligan my initial hand. I see a Zuran Orb on top, which I'm happy to tuck to the bottom of the deck. And I've got this fantastic defensive start here. And it looks like I'm probably playing Oath again, since other than Oath, other than me and my one tropical island, I don't see Trops unless I see Oath generally. So I could actually lose here if my opponent just forces this through, but he Flusterstorms it, which is really interesting. I guess it makes sense to take out a Black Lotus, like it was a disenchant, I suppose. Still, I don't know if I would have traded an Oath of Druids and risked it there, but maybe he thought I was going to force or something. I'm not sure. Anyway, so I go for Soul Ring, and then it gets Mental Misstepped. I really wanted the Ring, of course, because then I would have Force of Will up right here. So go ahead and take out his Orchard. Pass. He has another one. I draw Balance, which is interesting, maybe, but there's no real way to balance whatever he fetches with an Oath, since he can always force me to have as many creatures as he needs in order to make sure his creature lives. And I figure Oath is coming down here. And I was a little bit wrong. He actually tinkers into Blightsteel Colossus instead, which is interesting. He did have to give me a second Spirit to do it, so I can block both and live for a turn. I'm going to pause the game. So Balance isn't going to get me out of this because, again, he can just Forbidden Orchard a creature over here. But there are a few cards I can draw. So I can draw, I think from cheapest to highest, I can draw Dak Faden. I'm going to fetch a white source here. So I can draw Dak Faden, Moat, Humility, and Jace. Those are my 4 outs, not counting something like Ancestral into one of those cards, maybe with a Time Walk or something. Other than that, that's it. Now, on the other hand, no. Even Zuran Orb wouldn't save me, like Zuran Orb Balance, because he could still give me a creature in response. Okay. And there it is. The best of the many listed. And this game is getting flipped back and forth. Here I am at 9 poison counters. And I figure I got the game wrapped up, and my opponent has Jace. Okay. Well, I get to kill Jace and deal 1 to my opponent. I Dak into this and decide what I'm going to do is I believe I can win this game better than my opponent can. Remember, I've wasted one of his Forbidden Orchards, so I make this balance play right now, and by doing this, I Mind Twist my opponent, destroy everything he's got, and he has no more Forbidden Orchards. There's no way for him to give me creatures. So his Tinker's gone. So how does he win? He's going to have to hard cast his victory conditions. I figure, despite the fact that I could have been beating down with 3 creatures, it just felt way too risky. Because my opponent could kill me with he could have set up a Oath of Druids Time Walk turn and beat me. But this way, I don't see how he can win. So we're going to play it out. I find Sylvan, and hey, look, Tropical Islands in my deck. Yay. So get Sylvan down. Opponent brainstorms. And that means that all that life I gained earlier is going to translate directly into cards. As a matter of fact, it's almost like I'm playing a 30 life format at this point. I'm going for Jace, and I get forced with a mana drain. My opponent had tapped 1 to brainstorm, so he was able to get force up, but he wasn't able to get hard cast mana drain. All right, so I'm going to pay some life here, and then Dak. He only has one card in hand, so I'm going to throw away Mind Twist, go for a Cruise, exiling a bunch of counter spells since I'm not actually playing Snapcaster. And because he doesn't fight me over Cruise, I assume no counter, run out Crucible, and waste strip mine his island. And at that point, he scoops. He can't play Artifact Mana with Dak so high, and I'm going to strip mine him into Oblivion here. And of course, I haven't used Yawgmoth's Will yet, so even though I did throw away Mind Twist and Jace and so forth, I'm going to be able to get those back fairly soon. And plus, next turn, I get to draw a couple of extra cards, and there's a library in my graveyard. So next turn, I can draw, I can actually safely draw 2 extra cards, since Zernorb will give me more life, as long as I doubt my opponent's playing Sudden Shock, right? But if I'm really concerned about it, I could eat my Wasteland or something. So yeah, as a matter of fact, if I just drew 2 cards next turn, 1 plus Sylvan, I go to 6, which would put me at 7 cards in hand, and then replay Library from the graveyard. Because playing Strip Mine is pointless since my opponent has a Delta and I have a Wasteland. He's not going to sack the Delta until it's time to use it. So I play Library, and then from there I just start using Library, or perhaps I even just simply get a second blue out. But anyway, I just thought that was an amazing game because it flip-flopped back and forth just like a Type 1 game should. And the deck demonstrated its incredible recovery power. Now what we're going to do is just demonstrate the incredible brokenness, which you can also get. So this is obviously a pretty good turn. I'm going to Ancestral during his upkeep because I don't want to get Flusterstormed, and I just set up a gigantic storm turn. He can't storm artifacts or lands, but he can storm Ancestral. So I thought about the response to Oath of Druid, like what would be the most appropriate, and I decided that I would force with Merchant Scroll. After game 1, I had actually sideboarded out Dig and Cruise in order to, because I just went up to 4 disenchants, and so on this turn here, the reason I force a Willed is there's nothing for me to get with Merchant Scroll. Factor Fiction and Ancestral Recall are the 2 targets, other than Mana Drain and Force. So while I could get another Mana Drain here, I actually don't have double blue yet, so sacking the Lotus to do that or tapping the Sapphire to do that, it's not the greatest. But my thought process was if I force here and my opponent forces back or misdirections, then I'll sack the Lotus to mana drain the 5-mana spell, which will allow me to Factor Fiction and have some mana left over to potentially do whatever it is I need to do off the Factor Fiction, which will possibly be something like Crucible or digging for more blue somehow. So I would rather make this play here, and if it turns out that I don't need to Factor Fiction, like if I don't need to mana drain here, then the follow up is on my turn. I play Mox Pearl and cast Factor Fiction second main phase, and I can mana drain if my opponent was sandbagging a Force of Will here, which I think would be absolutely insane. I don't imagine anyone would fail to Force of Will on Oath. So anyway, that's why I forced it rather than mana draining it, though. So, like I said, some quick games, but I thought they were fun, and it was just cool to see like Type 1 things happening. I enjoy that quite a bit, and I hopefully you do as well. But yeah, after sideboarding against him, I think I took out Zernorb and Balance despite their performance in game 1. I may have. I did take out Moat for sure. I left Humility in. And what were the other cards I said? Oh yeah, Cruise and Dig. Too slow against Oath. Like, great cards, but early on, I need cards that stop me from losing in the first couple of turns. And then after that, I can use like Sylvan Library and Jace and so forth to take control of the game. So yeah, I took out Cruise, Dig for Disenchant. Humility stayed. Moat came out for Disenchant. Balance came out for Disenchant. Then Zernorb came out for Red Blast. and I took Gorilla Shaman out and I put in Pyroblast. I figure if I'm taking, first off, I don't want to play any creatures against Oath, and secondly, I'm going up to 4 disenchants, so if I really need to, I can run some disenchants for Oath early, and then I can will to tag artifacts. Plus, I still had Dak Faden left in the deck, so that's how I sideboarded against Oath. Seemed to make sense. Anyway, that's all I've got. I hope you enjoyed this quick little video. Just a bit of fun, and yeah, there's like nobody. I can set up a game here, and there's just nobody up right now. So perhaps I should not be either. All right. That's all I've got. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.